All right. Good morning, Mr. Wolf. How are you?
Good. Good morning. Good morning. How's everyone doing today? It's good to
Boy, I
be.
tell you, boy, last week, man. Wow, what a whirlwind week we had.
It was a busy one. We got another busy one this week too. But yeah, no, last week was great. It was great having you, having you in the office. It was always great to have you in town. I know you've got your responsibilities in your network here, but it was great to have you take some time to come up with us this week. And we'll see you back here in just a couple more weeks. So
Right.
but yeah, I mean, it was great having Matthew in town and then online with us. We had, I mean, just a really great dynamic contracts class. I really want to thank Lauren at First Integrity and all the folks who were able to put that together for us. So I think our agents really were able to kind of pull a lot together this week and be able to grow a lot and really sharpen the saw. And it's really timely because, as we both know here, it's coming up on the Super Bowl this weekend. So I expect in the next 10 to 14 days, our market to really turn on like a faucet, guys. So for all of our agents out there that are, legacy agents have been around the block for a while, that it's time to bat down the hatch to get ready to work. Right. So,
Right.
yeah, I think I was really excited. Yeah. What was your biggest takeaway, you think?
Well, I tell you, number one, the contracts class was great. I totally agree. I learned just a few key things. I also think the state did a great job just cleaning up a few items, and clarifying, which is nice. I think the Gardner event, he just provided so much data, not only for the 7-county Denver metro area, but for Colorado Springs, as well, and then up in northern Colorado. So I think that whole Front Range now we've got covered, which is good. I think. The other piece is some of our tools. So we had an opportunity. We had our leadership in town this last week and shared a little bit about our app, right? And so we were talking about that a little bit over the weekend. The app is pretty clean. It's pretty slick. It's a stickiness to keep our prospects and buyers close to us, and maybe instead of going other places. And it just functions really well within the Windermere network and the Moxie tools that we have at our disposal.
I agree. I think it's from like a user perspective. I shared it with my wife over the weekend, and obviously, anytime I interact with something like that, I try to put on my buyer eyes so I can see how I would interact with it if I was just shopping. And I just find it to be really superior to a lot of the other options out there. It was really easy for me to navigate to the types of properties I wanted to see. If I sent some things over to Helen, she was able to identify that and like look at pictures and leave notes. So it was really easy for us to use. I think that it can get a little unwieldy on occasion with some of the other options out there. So I found ours really, really impressive. I think that as we continue to expand the Windermere Ready and the Windermere Offers program, I think that was some really great options. I think that being able to really easily put net sheets in front of our sellers, that was a feature that we're really expanding there. So our sellers can understand like, hey, there's, especially as dynamic as our market is, and I think we can see that based upon our conversation with Matthew. There's probably like several scenarios to consider as we're going through the home selling and the home buying process here. So understanding the ins and outs and the financial repercussions of choosing option A over option B, C, and D, I think that's really important for our sellers. So making that as easy as possible for them to interact with, I'm really happy with that. So, man, I feel really prepared. Not that I didn't before, because I always feel like Windermere takes good care of us, but making sure front loading a lot of this training and a lot of this new interaction, I really feel really prepared as we head into our busy season here in the spring.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you hit a really good point a few minutes ago, that for our market, that Super Bowl Sunday is a critical weekend. So starting next week, a lot of us, phones are going to start ringing. People are going to start thinking about making moves. I had one over the weekend that might turn into a sell and a buy potentially. Life happens, expanding families and things like that. So I think it's really important. This was a good time to get all your tools in order, right? So we talked a little bit about Sentry Lock. Okay. We talked a little bit about not only Showing Time, but Broker Bay. A little bit about all of our tools that we have that we're ready to go. So when those buyers come or those sellers come, we're ready to hit the ground running and serve, in that manner that we're used to serving.
Yeah, then even taking a step back into technology for a second, it's important to have dialogue with your managing broker and your team lead, so you understand what their availability is as the market picks up. Generally most of us here are working agents as well as managing brokers here, so we want to make sure that we're setting time aside for our teammates to offer them any sort of guidance and mentorship they may need. So also for agents to reach out and connect with maybe some of their teammates that can overlap in markets. So if we have events that pop up, or if we maybe have double coverage for the weekend. We might need to have one of our teammates take our clients out or open a door or two, right? And like we would do that for them. So having some partnerships and some accountability partnerships there, as well as that we can assist with our clients. I think that's really good to have that stuff to set up ahead of time, rather than calling your 10 teammates the day before you have to have a showing next morning at 9 a.m., seeing who can cover. If you can kind of identify those partnerships now, so that when you're busy, you have, things set up and people expect it. I think that's really good, so make sure you're setting yourself up for success, guys. Busy is never a problem, but it's still something we need to be prepared for, right? So there's gonna be times when you're juggling 5 or 6 clients at the same time, and maybe one of your teammates has like 1 or 2, and that role is going to inverse, right? So I'm not saying necessarily refer them, though that's an option if that's how you want to handle it. But just having someone you can say like, hey Michael, I am booked up solid on Saturday. I have a client who wants to look at like 2 or 3 properties down in the Texaner. Can you help me out with that? Boom, right? So if you have those partnerships identified now, it's much better than trying to backfill them later.
Right. Well, I think the other thing too, is understanding what's out there from an inventory standpoint. We don't do a lot necessarily of previewing, but I think it's okay. I think it's acceptable to get out there and open a few doors, walk through a few houses, obviously resale, but even new construction. I know we had a conversation with one of our agents last week about dedicating some time every week or every month and just knowing where all the new construction communities are located. Happens to have an older vehicle. GPS software is not current. It's great that you have a mobile phone, but sometimes when you lose cellular connectivity in certain areas, it may or may not work. I think it's just good to know where they are, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that's another thing. So we're ready to go, and we know the inventory, right?
Yeah, and I agree. I think to me, it's all about time blocking, like anything else. We highly encourage our agents to do their 2 hours of prospecting 4 days a week, whether it's reaching out to new potential clients, old clients, or actives and under contracts, things like that. But they set that time aside Monday to Thursday, and that is time we don't schedule over, right? That is when we're out. So I would argue you can do the same thing for property tours, right? So if you're like, hey man, a good agents tour property every Saturday starting at 10 a.m., then at 10 a.m. I'm going to be doing something. So if you have a client, wonderful. If you don't, maybe schedule 2 or 3 previews. Obviously, okay with the other agent beforehand, but if you get to go ahead, you can grab some pictures or some video and just public know there's a beautiful home for sale in this market, and you'd be happy to show them. And then then your life is set up to be successful at that time, right? So when you're ready to go, you have your system in place. You know what time you have to get up to get your workout in, to grab your coffee, to be ready on site by 10 a.m. Versus trying to figure that out later, right? So and you say it every day, man. Whatever the Eagles and the Chiefs are practicing right now, they're not going to wait till Sunday, right? So I think that the more you prepared, and we can have a systemic approach to this, the more successful you're going to be later on, right? Because as the turns on here in a week or two, man, if you're trying to figure out your schedule when you're trying to juggle 3 and 4 clients at the same time, I think that your odds of success and you represent that client this way take a big hit, right? So now if you've been popping up on Saturday morning at 8 a.m., getting a quick workout in, grabbing a bite to eat, and then being on site at 10 a.m., even if it's just 1 or 2 properties and you're home by 11:30, I think you are in a good space, right? So time blocking sets yourself up for success all the way through the 7 days of the week, right?
Right. No, I totally agree. And I think that's the activity breeds activity. I've always felt that. And there's an energy that's out there. There's a knowledge base that's out there. Too. So I totally agree. I do. I think with what Matthew talked about this last week was, for the most part, a lot of positive. I think, although a lot of things are happening, right? I mean, jobs report came out on Friday, which was another positive. I think we're starting to see some pullback a little bit in those rates. He did give some predictions for the year, somewhere between 5.5, which is probably a fair number.
I think so. I mean, some people are a little more ambitious and see it dipping towards like 5.25, but I think, 5.5 is reasonable for us to recover this. That would be, I mean, if it hits it by Q4, that's better than a full point pullback, because we were up at like 6.8 at towards in Q4 there. So if we're at 5.4, that's like a 1.5. That's pretty darn good. Obviously, we want to see that continue to trend down. But I mean, I don't know that holding our breath for 3% again is going to be something that's reasonable. And I also think that he was like fairly optimistic on home values, right? Like some markets will see a slight increase, some markets unfortunately may see a slight decrease, but it won't be crazy, and it's the effect where, and I think he said it best, I think I remember succinctly, he said, if you bought your house in 2021, it's gonna be worth more in 2023, right? If you 2022, you might need a little more time to recover,
Right.
but you're not in a bad place. You need a little time for it to bounce
Right.
back, and that happens when in the real estate market, right?
Right.
So I think overall we're in a really great place. I think that we're moving to a market where buyers and sellers can both go into a transaction feeling good about what they're going to sell and what they're going to buy and what the end result's going to be, and I've missed that, right? I missed it. I missed where there was some market equitability right here. So I think just
Right.
the market can just understand that, hey, if we both just enter this market and try to be reasonable here, we're
Right.
all we're all gonna get what we want. You want to sell a house, I want to buy one.
Right.
Let's be reasonable consumers and reasonable sellers, and we'll be okay.
Right.
Um,
No, I totally agree. I think too, it all depends, on what's happening in people's lives, right? People get married, they get divorced, they have babies, they pass away, they get job changes. I mean, all these things happen, right? I had some dialogue with a long-standing client of mine yesterday, actually, in their life. They're on their second child and busting at the seams. And, the first kind of comment was, well, God, where are the interest rates? And they're super, super low to the refi, but we had some dialogue about when they bought their house, some general potential equity, generally some loan programs that will put them in touch with one of our partners. And they're like, okay, well, this is doable. I'm like, I think it's doable. I think it's doable. I think let's get out there and open a few doors, start dipping your toe in the water. Let's start seeing what's out there, And again, that's just how it happens, right?
yeah, well,
Is-
it's always an investigation, right?
Uh-huh.
Situation. So if you bought your house in 2018, you're probably in really darn good shape,
Yep.
even with the rates are a little bit higher, and the rates don't last forever, right? We say,
Right.
marry the house, hold hands to the rate, right? It's gonna change, right? And most people do a couple of refis throughout the time of their home. I think, and I'm always surprised when people don't engage with that. I think that one of our teammates, Chris Wilson, mentioned that he was kind of reviewing some classic data, and there's still people who have like 9% mortgage rates out there because
Yeah.
they bought it's like that person could have been really well served by investigating that at some point,
Yeah.
right? I think it's
Yeah.
important to always take a look and
Yeah.
contacting your Windermere realtor or anyone that you're aware, or we're happy to set you up if you don't have it with HomeBot as a service to keep your eye
Right.
is a really good thing to do,
Right.
but it's always with an investigation, man. Investigation costs you no money, costs you no dings in your credit, costs you nothing besides
Right.
empowering information to make your decision. So
Right.
contact your trusted realtor, contact your trusted loan advisor, and look into it, and we're
Right.
happy to deliver information anytime free of charge just to make sure the public understands where they're at. And
Right.
I would love for you to be a Windermere client, people out there looking at this, but go with someone you trust. And I am extremely confident, obviously the whole industry will say that will be a charge-free, commitment-free thing they will do for you is to make sure that you're informed.
Right, right. And we do that really well, I think, as a team with our annual property reviews with our current clients, right? And I think that's another way to stay in front of them. It also keeps us fresh and sharp on the market, as well. And those are things that help become a trusted advisor and keep that relationship within with not only with our sphere, but be connected in the market and be connected in the community. We can't just be a one and done and forget about the transaction.
No, and that's just not, speaking to our realtor partners out there in the world, that's just not how we build success, guys.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, if a transactional approach can, it's a teach them to fish for a day kind of scenario versus learn to fish for a lifetime. I
Right.
would rather have several long-standing relationships with my clients that are going to yield, transactions as their life grows and changes. They need more
Right.
from,
Right.
or I have friends and family and coworkers that need assistance.
Right.
That's who I want to be helpful to.
Right.
Obviously, there's situations where an individual is maybe had a bad experience or in some sort of crisis scenario as it relates to real estate, and they may be a one-time helpful person, or there's a reload deal out there where those are
Right.
large time deals, and they need help too. But I am a firm believer that your business should be structured on a long-term relationship approach to your clientele, so you can continue to serve them as the years go on. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. So what was your thoughts or ahas from last week?
Yeah, I mean, from last week, I'll echo you. I think that Windermere just continues to impress me with their constant pursuit of innovation. I think we have to be in the conversation with some of the best technology and support groups out there, and they just don't sit back on their laurels and enjoy that. They're always developing and doing something different and new and interesting. So I really appreciate Alex and Grady coming out here and walking us through some of that and just kind of keeping us on the front end of what Windermere is going or the direction they're going. I was really happy with the conversation that we had with Matthew. I think that, kind of rates getting back down to 5.5. Obviously, that's still a big number for a lot of people, considering some people were in like the sub 3 range. But man, it's reasonable for our buyers, and it sure looks good when you compare it to 6.8 towards the end of last year. So,
Right.
and again, no one's saying necessarily wait, identify your situation now, and make the right decision, but just know that you can kind of go purchase a house here in the next several months and feel comfortable that rates are trending in the right direction. So that's
Right.
good.
Right.
And kind of he did away with some fears, hopefully, that some people had about home values taking a big dive here. I mean, it's, I if anything else, I think we need more activity. We need more inventory to go up there to start seeing these increases. So when we started kind of balancing out the market in 2019, we were at like 3,700 homes on the market. Towards like the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, we started seeing that little more balance here. And now we're still down at 2,500 guys. So we've got a ways to go before we even catch up to where we were 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Let alone as we start seeing these rates turn in the right direction, buyers start re-engaging, we need more, right? So I think that sellers should feel comfortable understanding that they're not going to they're not going to take a big hit on their home, right? That their home's going to still perform for them and still going to be a great asset for them. And I think buyers should take heed in the fact that like, hey, things are turning in the right direction, right? So down, you can still get a good value on your home. We are seeing some more, multiple offer competitive situations going out there, but there's also some homes that have been on the market for a while that might have some room for negotiation. So strategize with your trusted realtor, understand that, make sure they understand what your wants and needs are, and collaborate on putting together a great process for yourself. So
I totally agree. Well, I think too, it's how do we help people solve challenges and issues, and what does it look like, and be there for them to walk them through these processes, right? Because a balanced market in a place like Denver is somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000. I've heard 9,000 homes is a balanced market.
9 feels aggressive, but right in that like 4 to 7 feels about right.
So, to have where we are, inventory is still incredibly tight. And I also think that there's people that would like to make a move. They just don't understand what some options might be. They get wrapped up in the rate, or wrapped up in this, or wrapped up in that, like, for example, we had a conversation with one of our lending partners about, hey, we've got clients that love their house, love their neighborhood. They got a boatload of equity, right? But they'd like to pick up maybe a place, in a second home market somewhere, right? Where they could almost pay cash for it, potentially, right?
Life changes. I mean, people who own their home for that long, where they're that aggressive, might have kids or kids potentially that are going to college, and maybe, instead of like shelling out money for room and board, doing an investment property in Fort Collins, Boulder, Pueblo makes some sense. You could, their person could live there, and they could rent it out to their classmates and break even, maybe make some money, and they have a set in a few years when their student moves on. So there's all sorts of strategies out there, guys. I mean, and and I think it's worth exploring, right? It's worth seeing what's out.
Right. So if someone wants our new app, let's be kind of the first question. We have our slides from our presentation from Matthew Garner. How do they get in touch with us, or what's the best way to get that distributed, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, of course, if you are currently working with one of our lovely teammates here at Windermere, whether it's in Denver or throughout the Windermere network, just touch base with them. I mean, we obviously enjoy kind of our Denver and Denver metro area statistics, but Matthew Garner, the stud that he is, basically hits almost every single network along Windermere, right? So if you are in Arizona, Idaho, Oregon, Washington, California, anywhere in there, he's probably got one that's catered for you that can really empower you to make your decisions. So talk to your Windermere, gather that intel from them. They'd be happy to help you out. If you're not currently working with someone from Windermere, or if you're an agent outside of the firm, we'd be happy to connect you with that too, because we really believe in empowering the market, right? So reach out to any of us here via comment on YouTube, or you can reach out directly to any of us through AndrewJ@windermere.com or Michael@michaelbenanati.com. We'd be happy to connect you. We'd love to get that information. Continue to follow the channel. We will start distributing this video piece by piece in kind of chewable chunks too over the next weeks. But if you want the data all at once via the PowerPoint slides, or via the whole unedited video, or make it look cool edited video, we'll get that but yeah, guys, we're not going to gatekeep this. We want you guys to have it. We want you guys to feel empowered by it. We'd love to help you out, and we think we're the best at it, but man, we don't want to stand in the way of you guys knowing the stuff. So. And so who kind of wrap it up here? Who you favoring for the Super Bowl on Sunday? I'm gonna echo Matthew. Fly Eagles fly, baby. Let's go. I'm bitter. Yeah. Plus, they
Well,
have
I'm
the
gonna
Ducks. You always, if your team doesn't make the Super Bowl, you always pick the team with the most Oregon Ducks on it. So you got to go. Yeah.
Well, I'll be rooting for the Chiefs this year. So
Oh, so what do we do? Let's see here. What's a good bet we can have for our next meeting here based on the outcome here?
hmm.
Let's see here. We'll figure something out, guys. We'll do something fun
Yeah.
for next video next week based upon the results on Sunday here. But
Yeah, that's what we'll do.
again, guys, anyone wants to reach out, we're happy to connect with this data. We're happy to kind of do whatever we can to inform you. Just please reach out. Let us know how we can help out, guys.
Yeah, that is awesome. And Andrew, thank you so much. And coming in the weeks ahead, we've got some of our amazing agents that are going to be joining us on our Fun Fact Friday.
Yeah, so we just like Stephanie was an amazing guest. We really enjoyed kind of the interaction we got from that. So we're gonna start sprinkling more of those people in every couple 2 to 4 weeks. We'll probably have a new guest come on. There'll be some of our teammates, some of our partners in the industry,
Yeah.
Some experts on. I'm really excited for the Windermere Foundation that's coming up a few weeks out. So that one's a little great, but man, we were able to raise $50 million in the last 50 years.
Yeah.
We have
Awesome.
this year. I'm really excited to continue to reach out, and that largely gets dumped back into our local market. So I'm very excited about that. Yeah, keep coming, guys. If you guys have anything you want to talk about, feel free to shoot us individual messages or even comment on this. And we'll very likely touch on that too. So yeah, appreciate it, guys.
Awesome. Well, listen, have a great weekend and go Chiefs.
There it is. See you guys. Yeah.